Greetings. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. And for those of you new to Celebration, this is a series that likes to look at people and their cultures and try to get a better understanding of the same. And in this pursuit, of course, we'll, in some instances, cover some familiar turf, but we also hope to uncover some interesting information not generally known, although the information is probably generally available. Now, to this end, we are certainly not afraid to gravitate toward little-known sources and small pamphlets and whatnot in search of this information, because it is fact, law, truth that we are interested in, and not a glossy facade. Now, in this particular series, we are looking at Jews and their culture. Please consider this carefully. Esau and his descendants were not and are not the seed of the promise, as in Isaac shall thy seed be called. All of Esau's marriages were mixed, and his offspring were bastards. And in Malachi, God stated, "And I hated Esau, whereas Edom saith, We are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever." Malachi 1:3-4. See also Romans 9:13. This is a citation from Who Are the Pharisees and the Jews? Are they Israel? A study by Pastor Bob Hallstrom. Very strongly, the Jews of Elath. We have, in the previous episode, gone over the business of Kormai and Akhar, Shoseba, Agzib, and so forth. And we have pretty much concluded on high probability. We think that this all relates to this line from Judah, Shelah, and the Jews of Elath refer to this. And this is the only group in that area that were called Jews, and that they did not represent any of the house of Israel, and only a tiny part of the house of Judah. And indeed, that particular part was outside of the congregation of Judah because of the inheritance problem. That is, Shelah's mother being a Canaanite. But let's take another look at this. This does not mean that all the people in Jerusalem were of Jewry, as there were certainly some who had kept their lineage pure. But most of the population of Palestine was this mixed breed described above. However, the majority of any remaining Israelites left Palestine within 3 years after Christ was crucified because of the persecution. Since most people of the house of Judah went into Assyrian captivity and never returned to Jerusalem, it can be said that all of those from the tribe of Judah are not Jews. However, it can be stated that some persons from the tribe of Judah became Jews. This does not mean that all the people in Judea at the time of Christ were of the mixed races, as there were certainly some who had kept their lineage pure, as did Noah, who was perfect in his generations, Genesis 6:9. But most of the population of Judea was a mixed breed of people known as Jews. However, it can be concluded that the land, the government, economics, and the temple worship was in control of the descendants of Esau, Canaan, and the Shelah branch of Judah, whom we refer to as Judah, Jerusalem, or the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Isaiah 8:14, Jeremiah 11:2, 19:13, and see Ezra 9 for a longer list. By the time of Christ, the positions of chief priests and elders in Jerusalem were occupied by these inhabitants of Jerusalem who were not Israelites, but were called Jews. Now this is a citation from Who Are the Pharisees and the Jews? Are they Israel? A study by Pastor Bob Hallstrom, page 34. Now, according to Pastor Hallstrom's thinking, it is these people who rejected Christ, not the 12 tribes of Israel per se, not the certainly not the house of Israel. I don't say, considering how corrupt they seem to be, that they wouldn't have, but they were far removed, so they couldn't have. The option was not there. Plus the 200,150 of the kingdom of Judah, which had been taken into Assyrian captivity with the house of Israel, were also out of the picture. And most of the remaining Judahites that were taken to Babylonian captivity seemed content to stay there. As we noted, even Daniel refused to return, so that when Ezra and Nehemiah came back, they were people who had a certain authority because they were coming back at the let of the king of Babylon, and they had authority to rebuild the wall and so forth like that. But they were going to a place that already had a government, that already had a religious structure, that already had a large population, and into which they became a minority. And we know that right off the reel, it did not take long before the Israelites who had returned, the Judahites with Ezra and Nehemiah, began to take wives of the locals and to give their daughters for marriage also, bringing great grief to Ezra and Nehemiah, and an attempt was made to halt this. But this trend of blending seems to be fairly strong, and we believe that by the time Christ appeared, the population of Israelites, the Judahites, with a reasonably pure lineage was relatively small, and therefore Christ found himself in a tough spot here, because he was amongst people who were patterned to be enemies of the Edomites and so forth. Now, we also believe that it's entirely possible that a line of Amalek lives within Jewry also. King Agag's was spared. His line did, to a certain extent, continue. We know that Haman in Babylon, who troubled Esther and the Jews, was of his line, therefore that Haman was a Amalekite. Now, great revenge was taken upon the enemies of Jews at that point finally, but something like 75,000 were slain. It's all pretty murky, but we do find out that throughout the realm of the Babylonian scepter, people were converting to Judaism. We believe that probably a lot of Amalekites who had come along with Haman and who were in the realm of the king of Babylon, probably, if they possibly could, also converted, hid themselves, as it were, in Judaism. So we believe that this particular line, which had a history of being almost inexplicably hostile to Israel, also became part of Jewry, of the Judahites of Babylon. and perhaps to a certain extent, small no doubt, but to a certain extent also returned with Ezra and Nehemiah to Jerusalem. We do not know for sure these things. It's some kind of speculation. We do know that Martin Luther himself viewed Jewry as being Amalek or Amalekites because of presumably all the trouble that Jews were known to cause. And it's as the Bible said, then came Amalek. Interestingly, as a side position, just as an aside, if the input of Amalekites into Jewry was significant, this may have joined also, of course, with Esau in producing a line which was kind of schizophrenic. That is, particularly where there was any kind of salient Israelite blood. You have like within one person, two hostile bloods. But interestingly enough, to make this germane to modern black Americans, many black Americans bear the blood of Jewry, and others bear the blood of the European. If I'm correct in saying that the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom, Ephraim, so to speak, as well as the 200,000 plus of Judah, migrated westward, joining some who had long or much earlier gone there, and becoming known as the Celto-Germanic people, that these European-blooded American blacks have the blood of Israel in them, while others who have blood through Jewry may well have the blood of Amalek and Esau. And therefore, you have a situation in which there are warring bloodlines in the black community, which would make any sort of unity impossible. And also, it would seem to be that the black community that has such deep faith in Christ the Messiah may well have that Israelite blood, while those blacks who have such detestation for Christianity and so forth, Freemasons and communists and whatnot, may indeed have the blood of Amalek, Esau in them. Now this, of course, is just speculation and so forth, but it's interesting because these bloodlines do continue. And we do know from the Bible that Edom will trouble Israel even into the final days. So, but let's go on. The large majority of surviving Jews in the world is of Eastern European, and thus perhaps mainly of Khazar origin. If so, this would mean that their ancestors came not from the Jordan, but from the Volga, not from Canaan, but from the Caucasus, and that genetically they are more closely related to the Hun, Uyghur, and Magyar tribes than to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is again a citation from Who is Esau Edom, Mr. Charles A. Wiseman, page 9, citing author Kessler's The 13th Tribe, Random House, 1967, page 17. Now, I think the name Ashkenazim should also stand out in the minds of people familiar with the Bible, because from the line of Japheth, where you find an individual named Ashkenaz. Now, I want you to get a good grip on your chairs. This piece of information is a little bit astonishing, but I think you should hear it, so let's go forward. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the original stock of the Khazars came from the land of Edom. Hasdai ibn Shaprut, who was a foreign minister to Abd al-Rahman Sultan of Cordova, in his letter to King Joseph of the Khazars about 960, speaks of the tradition according to which the Khazars once dwelt near the Seir Mountains. The Seir Mountains are none other than the original land of Esau, Edom. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. Genesis 36:8. Seir was a mountain range south of the Dead Sea and was also known as the land of Edom. Genesis 36:21. The Seir Mountains were the home of the Edomites for nearly a millennium. Thus, it should be no surprise that migrants from that land would recall the name of their original homeland. If the Khazars did originally dwell near the Seir Mountains, then the Khazars, and thus world Jewry, are racially of Edomite stock. But how and when did Edomites get to Khazaria? There is evidence that in the 6th century BC, some of the Edomites fled their homeland of Seir and migrated north. After the fall of Jerusalem in 586 BC, the Edomites began to press northward, Ezekiel 36:5. The extent and ultimate destination of this northward trek is not found in history, but it is likely that it brought some Edomites to the region of Khazaria. The Edomites were also cast out of Palestine and dispersed in different directions in 70 AD when the Romans sacked Jerusalem. This is a citation from Who is Esau, Edom by Mr. Charles A. Wiseman, page 11, citing the Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 4, 1905, page 3. Also, the Encyclopedia Judaica, Volume 6, page 372, and also the New Westminster Dictionary of the Bible, edited by Henry S. Gaiman, the Westminster Press, Philadelphia, 1970, page 418. Furthermore, and in the same vein, please attend. When dealing with a people of a mixed racial heritage, it becomes a real quandary to ascertain their origin. The Jews of today are such a people. In fact, the Jews themselves assert they are mongrels because of the original mixed ancestry of the Jews and their subsequent history of intermixture with every people among whom they have lived and continue to live. The anthropologist, Professor Carlton Kuhn, has also demonstrated the admixture of the different Jewish types with other races. He explains that while the Jews cannot be classed as a race per se, they are an ethnic group. The Jews form an ethnic group that, like all ethnic groups, they have their own racial elements distributed in their own proportions. Like all or most ethnic groups, they have their look, a part of their cultural heritage that both preserves and expresses their cultural solidarity. They have developed a special racial subtype and a special pattern of facial and bodily expression. Now, this is a citation from Who is Esau, Edom? Mr. Charles A. Wiseman, pages 11 and 12, citing Mr. Ashley Montague, A Man's Most Dangerous Myth, 1974, page 375, and Carlton S. Kuhn, The Races of Europe, The Macmillan Company, New York, 1939, page 442. Now, at this point, we might want to pause to consider the inferences which might be reasonably drawn from all this. So please attend. Only about 50,000 returned to Palestine, Ezra 2:64-65. Some of them had apparently departed to their kinsmen in Asia Minor. However, many other Judahites and Benjaminites preferred to remain in Babylonia, becoming a part of the indigenous population. Those remaining had intermarried with the Babylonians and Edomites that were in the land and adopted their religion and law, the Babylonian Talmud, which became the foundation for Judaism. Although they are called Jews, a term which is derived from the word Judah, these people are not true Judahites, but became a mixed or hybridized people consisting of Edomites, Hittites, Canaanites, Judahites, Babylonians, Maccabees, Huns, Khazars, etc. When they migrated to other lands throughout the centuries, they retained their Jew or Judahite identity, but brought with them the religion of Babylon. Some of these racially mixed Jews were also among the 50,000 who returned to Jerusalem, Ezra 2:62, Nehemiah 7:64, 13:3. Nevertheless, let me call your attention to this point. The first revealing attribute associated with Esau Edom in Scripture is that of a color association with his name. Esau Edom is symbolically associated with the color red. Esau was actually born with this attribute, as is described in the account of his birth. And the first, Esau, came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Here we find that Esau had the physical attribute of being red and hairy, which is contrasted with Jacob's appearance, who was a plain man, Genesis 25:27. The red color of Esau was to be a sign that he would later sell his birthright to Jacob for some red pottage. And Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint." Therefore was his name called Edom. The word Edom actually means red, and the name Esau signifies red. This is a citation from Who is Esau Edom by Charles A. Wiseman, page 18. Now, don't flip your wig hats, but this particular info is quite amazing. I think you should get a look at it. Some may call it inflammatory and so forth, but nevertheless, it is worth seeing. It does have import if correct. So let's consider it. When we look at the meaning and symbology associated with the color red in both scripture and secular history, we have a better understanding of the nature and identity of Esau Edom and who he is to be identified with. Here are some illustrations. Red is representative of blood and bloodshed. 2 Kings 3:22, Isaiah 1:15. That expression comes back into my mind, then came Amalek. But let's go on. Scarlet or red is symbolic of sin in general, Isaiah 1:18. The red horse of the book of Revelation signifies war and the ability to cause wars, Revelation 6:4. Esau was to be warlike and live by the sword, Genesis 27:40. Now, I think by interpretation, people, we can say that by living by the sword, we mean that Edom will be willing to employ killing, murder, and so forth when it suits the purpose, his purpose. So, but let's continue. The anti-Christian satanic system which ruled Rome was identified as a red dragon, Revelation 12:3. Jews are the most anti-Christian people on the face of the earth. The great beast of mystery Babylon, which spread abominations and death to the whole earth, is scarlet or red in color, and the woman on the beast, or controlling it, is dressed in scarlet. Revelation 17:3-4. Jews are the major promoters of the Babylonian religion called Judaism. The banking industry, which is a part of Red Babylon's economic control over Christendom, is led by the Jewish banking family of Rothschild, which means Red Shield. The red flag symbolizes revolutionary socialism. The socialist movement, from its inception up to the present day, has been largely dominated by Jewish influence. In the Jewish Kabbalah, red signifies bloodshed and also justice for the Jew. The Jewish author and historian Arthur Koestler shows that the Jewish Khazars, from which many Jews are derived, were commonly known as the Red Jews. The color of Jewish communism is red, as indicated by such terms as Red Nation, Red Star, Red Square, etc. The Russian Revolution that brought about red communism was planned and financed by Jews, and the revolutionary leaders nearly all belonged to the Jewish race. Red in the West has become a universal sign for warning or danger. Red Edom is obviously a danger to the Christian West. The color red is as predominantly associated with the Jews and their activities as it is with that of Esau Edom. Now this is a citation from Who is Esau Edom by Mr. Charles A. Wiseman, pages 19 and 20. Citing Arthur Koestler, The 13th Tribe, page 135, 1976, and National Geographic Magazine, volume 18, number 5, page 314, May 1907. And Reverend Dennis Fahey, The Rulers of Russia, page 8, and the Jewish Encyclopedia, volume 4, page 178, 1905. And Joseph Jacobs, Jewish Contributions to Civilization. Well, that's it, folks. We're out of time again. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. I appreciate your tuning in, and I hope to see you again next time.